All right. Welcome, DoorGrow hackers, to the DoorGrow show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, increase revenue, help others, impact lives, and you are interested in growing your business and life, and you are open to doing things a bit differently, then you are a DoorGrow hacker. DoorGrow hackers love the opportunities, daily variety, unique challenges, and freedom that property management brings. Many in real estate think you're crazy for doing it. You think they're crazy for not, because you realize that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management businesses and their owners. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. I'm your host, property management growth expert Jason Hull, the founder and CEO of DoorGrow. Now let's get into the show. And today's guest, I'm hanging out with two really cool people, entrepreneurs with values after my own heart, Mark and Ann Lackey from HireSmart. Mark and Ann, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Jason. We're excited to be here today.
It's great to be with you. Thank you.
So I've been spending some time with you guys, right? So we've been spending a little bit of time together and working a little bit on your business, and you're working some of the DoorGrow magic with HireSmart. And those of you that are watching this instead of listening, Ann, can you show off your logo there in the background just a little bit?
I can.
Right. So I'm so excited for you guys because Ann and Mark have this phenomenal business in which you help people get virtual assistants in their companies. And I'm excited that we're making visually it look as awesome as you guys are. So why don't you introduce yourselves to everybody and tell everybody a little bit about how you got into this business?
So I'm Ann, and of course,
I'm Mark.
And we were investors, started a property management company helping other investors back in 2005. And in 2014, something happened in our property management business that really kind of changed us. We had a long-term employee quit via text on our first vacation in 7 years. And literally, we had to turn around, drive 6 hours back to the office, and I was ready to quit. I said, if I've got to continue to do this type of work day in and day out, I'm just not well suited for it. So what happened is we got introduced to the concept of hiring full-time dedicated virtual assistants from the Philippines. And we thought, that's interesting. So we do what we normally do, Mark, right?
We started digging in, learning everything we could, trying to find all the faults or the probable waste of what we could do and pitfalls. And we spent some time looking at about 6 months before we made a decision that we were ready to jump in with both feet, that we had our processes built as best we could.
So we started on that journey, and we had friends that say, you're happy again. What happened to you? What is different in your life? And we said, well, we hired a Teresa. And
that was our first VA.
That was our first VA
over 4 years ago.
And so she literally impacted our lives. And they're like, well, I want a Teresa. And they said, if can you help me find one, and can you help me train them, because I don't know how to do this? I said, sure. So we literally had 2 weeks to come up with a curriculum and a plan. And actually, interestingly enough, that was 3.5 years ago. And those VAs are still working for that client. And they have, of course, that client has expanded and added more. And we've only gotten better and better and better and better. And so now it's a big part of what we do is helping property managers navigate how to outsource, how to have full-time dedicated virtual assistants.
And so let's define a virtual assistant, because a lot of people hear VA and they think, oh, that's something that's not a team member, or that's something that's like auxiliary, or maybe it's somebody that doesn't matter as much on a team. And so let's get into that. Let's define what really a virtual assistant is, because I think really, if we look at the definition, my entire team are virtual assistants. I mean, technically, they're all virtual team members. Even if some of them are full-time employees, my entire company are virtual. And by some definitions, that they're a virtual assistant. So
sure. So basically, we look at virtual assistants into kind of 3 segments. The first segment is project or task based. So you need a logo or you need something specific done. It's a kind of a one and done. So we really categorize those as virtual assistants, but they're really freelancers. It's kind of what the word that we use for them. And the second one is kind of that outsourcing model where you have call centers or you have a pool of people. So you don't get the same person every time. But they maybe do answer your leasing line, or
you buy blocks of hours, basically. So I need 10 blocks of hours this week to have my phones answered.
So, that also is kind of a virtual assistant too. And then what we do is full-time dedicated team members. So what we do is help in the recruiting and training and certification of full-time dedicated virtual assistants, and much like any other recruiter that you would hire to help you find great talent.
We're their next employee. The only difference is the employee doesn't show up at the office at 8 o'clock in the morning. They're there remotely. And when people can recognize that they can hire that way and have that employee work remotely, that's much more productive. They come over to us and said, we want one, we want two, we want three. It's just been overwhelming, the response. And it's the same thing we went through 4 years ago of figuring it out that, wow, you can do this and you don't have to have people right there in your office.
Yeah, makes sense. So I think there's a huge amount of freedom for me as an entrepreneur in not having team members that are right here bugging me constantly throughout the day. I love my team, but I also know that my team loves how quiet a virtual team can be. Everybody can focus on their work. There's this calmness that's always prevalent in the business. There isn't this immediate interruptiveness and interruptions and urgency that's constant. And I've heard from lots of entrepreneurs running multi-million-dollar companies, million-dollar plus companies, complain on different mastermind calls and different calls that I've been on, talking about how their new assistant is driving them nuts because they keep coming into their office and saying, what do you want me to do? What do you need me to do? And now I also see a really weird thing that I've noticed, like even in the DoorGrow Club and in property management communities, that just lets me know somebody's not yet ready for a virtual assistant or ready for a new team member. And it's this weird question that they ask where they go and post as if they have no clue what they want somebody to do. And they say, what do you guys have your virtual assistants do? I have no clue. Like as if they need somebody else to give them some ideas for how they could use one. And so maybe you could address that. Like, how does somebody get ready to have a virtual assistant? How do you guys help them do that?
So when we're working with our clients, first things we want to understand is what are the holes in their business? So we kind of come along as kind of this consultant to them and saying, what is it in your business that isn't getting done because you either are too busy or you don't want to do it or you're not good at it. And usually what we do is help them figure out the best return on investment for that person. So I'll give you an example. So in my business, in the property management business, I cannot stand, I don't have the personality to answer the same 7 questions every day. I'm not nice about it. It's just not a good use of my skill set.
Is that property still available? How much does it rent for? What's the security deposit? Can I move in tomorrow? How do I apply?
All of that. If I had to sit there and answer the phone to do that, I literally would poke my eyes out with a fork and sell my business. But so for me, the best return on investment was to hire somebody who loves to answer those same 7 questions, is very pleasant about it, has a great attitude to do that, doesn't mind answering it every day, doesn't mind calling people back and saying, hey, you saw the property yesterday, are you ready to apply? So that for me was a game changer. And like I said, we had somebody in that role that was here locally, but as you kind of alluded to, we had to listen to who won The Bachelor last night and her family dramas. And while we are compassionate people and we do really care about people, at some point business needs to get done.
And imagine Monday and Tuesday, there was no discussions with our VAs about the Super Bowl.
Like, they
I
didn't
guarantee
care.
you every office in the United States lost 6-8 hours in 2 days from all their employees talking about the Super Bowl, right?
We didn't have that issue, thank goodness.
Right.
So I think for every entrepreneur and every property management business owner, what they need is very different. You may be fine with that, or you may have an employee that loves to do that. And if so, great. Maybe it's your accounting background, or maybe it's lease renewals, or maybe it's maintenance coordination. It doesn't really matter the role. If it can be done with a computer and a phone, we can help you source the right talent for you to fill that particular role.
And something Ann said is source the right talent, because based on what those needs are, the top 3 things they need somebody to do, that's who we go look for. We look for the personality, the mindset, the skill set that can do that type of job. It's not just the next person in line that needs a job. It's the person that is available out there that can actually meet the requirements of the property manager.
Yeah, I think that's a common mistake that business owners make is, I think one mistake that's really common is that we assume that the rest of the world views things the way that we do.
Yeah.
And so we hate certain things. Like there's certain things I do not enjoy doing in business. And that's why I have team members doing it. And the mistake I think a lot of business owners make when they first kind of start hiring is they assume that nobody's going to like doing those things. And what I've found is somebody loves just about anything that exists.
Yes.
Well, I have team members that they love staring at a computer screen and doing graphic design all day long. That is fun for them. Especially not having to talk to people very often. They love that. I have some team members that love spending all their time like writing. They think writing is like the bee's knees. They just love it. And I would go crazy if all I did was write all day long. And and so I think the mistake we fall into as entrepreneurs is, one, we try to incentivize or pay people the way that we would want to be paid. So we tend to gravitate quickly towards commission and towards monetary incentives and things, when a lot of team members don't, because entrepreneurs, we tend to be like that. And we also tend to sometimes feel uncomfortable giving people things to do. And so that we might feel uncomfortable doing, but they might enjoy that a lot.
Absolutely. So part of our process and systems, which we have a hiring process, we have a 10-step hiring process that we use for every placement, goes through understanding the entrepreneur's requirements and needs. And then because we've done it hundreds and hundreds of times, we know kind of where to source the perfect individual for that entrepreneur. So ideally, when I've made this 3 selection candidates, really for my clients, it's really just about cultural fit. Everything else is taken care of.
Because any of those 3 could do the job very well.
And oftentimes, most of my clients are very amazed. They're like, well, I expected 1 good person, but man, you gave me 3. And last week, we actually had 1 client take 2 because they're like, I can't decide. I want them both. I'm
Too big a dilemma. Right?
We can do that. That's not a problem. We can help you with that. So, that's always my goal, is that it's literally just about you just feel comfortable with who we've chosen. And then the other probably big differentiator is I work with every VA that's been selected for 40 hours, meaning that I'm reviewing their work, I'm reviewing their communication. So we're putting to the test all of the things that we think are true based on, data and testing and that kind of stuff. And we're actually making sure that our assumptions are actually true. And if they're not, then I fire them immediately, and we go back to the drawing board and get 3 new, fresh virtual assistants for our clients to choose from. So it's actually works out really well, which is why we have such a high rate of retention. We have a 97% success rate in our placements, and we're very, very proud of that.
Yeah, and that's phenomenal. And I've been through your process with you. Like reviewing it with you and looking at all the steps, and you have a really detailed process. We're talking multiple assessments. And so could you explain some of the criteria that you push people through, like to make sure that they're going to be a good fit? Because there's a lot that goes into this.
I'll give you a little overview, that Ann will dig down deeper. But in our 10-step process, the testing and the evaluations that go on by the prospective virtual assistant is all online, all interactive, and they've got to get to a point of about 6 steps before they even have the first conversation with somebody, which is our partner in the Philippines, and through that interview process. So it's very rigorous just to get to that. We have a rate of about 1% of the people that come to us make it all the way through the 10 steps.
Yeah, and I think a lot of things that, certainly there's some basic testing that we do for math and verbal skills, of course. But I think one of the things, there's a couple of things that really make us kind of superior. One is the criminal background check that we deal with. The reality is, we're dealing with people's sensitive data. And so, making sure that we've at least done our due diligence and making sure that we've put them through several rigorous background checks is one of the things. So we hear a lot of times that people are going to hire direct or try to do it on their own, and they just don't have access to those same tools that we do. It's sort of like I tell people in the property management, it's like a property owner could manage their property themselves. They could, but they probably would be a big mistake to do so, because as property managers, as professionals, we have lots of experience with looking at applications and credit, and lots of experience and all of that. And the same is kind of true with virtual assistants. Like, you could go do it on your own, but you don't have access to the same tools. You don't have the same experience. You don't have hundreds and hundreds of placements under your belt like we do. Just like an individual owner doesn't have hundreds and hundreds of tenants like we do. So there's a kind of a direct parallel there that I think kind of lends itself in this analysis. But the other thing that we do is those soft skills. It's the personality and making sure that, Mark and I are kind of data hounds. So we're constantly evaluating data. We're looking at data. We're looking at our placements. Who are our superstars? What do they have in common? And so we only get better and better and better. And honestly, after 4 years of doing this, we're pretty good.
Yeah, we evaluate about a dozen personality traits.
It's not just DISC profiling.
And it's not DISC. This is something Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies would use in their hiring. And so we're going through these attributes that these individuals have of their personality to see how they fit. And they may fit into an American company because this is a testing program set up for America. So we took that whole testing program, ran it through all of our successful VAs, and built our own algorithm of how it applies and works in the Filipino culture and the Filipino mindset. And that's something nobody else in our business and our industry is doing anything like that. And that's what's giving us such a high level of success.
Yeah, and you guys are checking things. I mean, anything from like their ability at typing, their typing speed. You guys are vetting them and checking their internet connectivity, which is a big issue in the Philippines. Making sure that they have the right equipment, and you really, your program is super comprehensive, because I've hired in the Philippines and I've had Filipino staff, and I've dealt with those issues. I know that these are things you only learn through pain and through trial and error normally. And really what you're saying is you have everybody that makes it through your process. They really are the top 1% of remote workers that are available in the Philippines. These are not the people that would probably be working at any of these call centers or these big groups that call themselves virtual assistants. This is something very different. And you're getting them as a team member, a dedicated staff, where they get to learn your business, learn your processes, and you can then create a relationship with them. That's
correct.
They're not people you find on Craigslist.
Right. So, and one of the things that in working with you guys that's really been inspiring to me is you have a vision and a mission beyond just making money and just helping property managers find some team members. And you're having an impact in the Philippines. So could you touch on that a little bit? I'd love for people to hear
absolutely. So we are very passionate about having good clients that want to integrate Filipinos as team members, and we give them careers. That's always how we look at it, which means that just like you would you would train and teach somebody that you care about in your organization, we expect the same thing for you to do with our virtual assistants. But even more than that, we're changing the landscape in that this year we have enough clients and revenue to be able to afford to pay for healthcare for our clients' VAs at no additional cost to the clients and no additional cost to the virtual assistant. Healthcare is very, very expensive. We have expensive healthcare here in the U.S.
Same thing in the Philippines.
It's the same thing there as well, and they can't get the level of care that we're able to provide them outside of the BPO industry. And so we're really kind of changing the landscape. That's one of our things that we use for retention as well as recruiting, because we can get the best talent because we're paying them extremely well. We are, that's another thing. My own personal assistant, Hannah, has been able to buy her own house. She was able to build her own house. And that is a big deal. Like most of them rent and most of them are in just really poor living conditions.
But we're paying them very well. Back to the healthcare real quickly. When we started offering that, the response to our desires, our ads that we were placing that we desired to hire somebody just went through the roof because nobody else in that industry, nowhere else can they get healthcare. Yeah. And so the response was just overwhelming. So between that, paying a very high rate for the individuals to have them want to continue to stay for our clients, it worked real well because they stick around for, we've got some that have been working with us 4 years now. And so they stick around there and it changes lives, like you say, on the other side of the world, giving them opportunities they wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, I love it. One of the issues I've seen with a lot of internet marketers that will leverage or use Filipino staffing, sometimes there's kind of this view that the people in third world countries are like commodities. They're like a thing they're like disposable, like paper plate type of workers that you can throw away and go find another really easily. And it's disheartening to see that, but it's incredible. There's a massive difference. And I don't know that people realize this unless you've done a lot of hiring of remote workers or virtual team members, and seeing the difference between having dedicated staff, but there's a massive difference in terms of productivity. In my perspective, it's about 3 times the results from team members that are dedicated and committed to your company versus having a contractor or a freelancer or somebody that is focused on other channels and other things. Because if they're dedicated to you, their entire focus is helping you build your company. And if they are a freelancer or contractor, their primary focus is making sure they have the next job and they have other work and they have enough work and they have too many different, irons in the fire a lot of times, and they're distracted. And I think the communication cycle when they're in those situations is also delayed. And so I've noticed we've been able to move far faster with far fewer staff and get a lot more done if the team members are more dedicated. Whereas I used to have a larger team of part-time people or freelancer type of people.
That actually is very, very true. The reality is a lot of the virtual assistants have been treated very poorly. In other words, they have to scrounge for the next job because you may not pay them. That's a big thing that we see. So when I interview, I hear it a lot, like, well, I had to leave because I wasn't getting paid. I was working and not getting paid. And, I was having to continually try to find the next job. And we said, well, we're not like that. This is a career. These are our expectations. And we have very high expectations. I mean, we counsel our people very well. And we have a commitment to excellence video that they have to watch before they ever interview with a client. They've got to agree to do certain things. And so again, it goes back to our core values. It goes back to what we're trying to change in the industry. And I think the results are speaking for themselves. It's amazing what we've been able to accomplish in a fairly short amount of time.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. And so, so how does the process work? How does somebody generally get started with you?
Usually it starts with a call. So usually I sit down with them for 15, 20 minutes and talk about kind of that what we talked about, the ROI, like what's going to give you the first kind of best bang for your buck. What do you need in your business? And we actually have some tools to help with that, which I'm happy to share with anybody that's interested. And from that tool, then they decide, well, is this for them or not? Most of our clients are blown away. They're amazed at all the different things that a virtual assistant can do. And we actually have 79 things in a property management business that we can identify that can be done.
And they're blown away at the amount of money that they're going to save on top of getting more work done.
And so once we have the appointment, we kind of go through our process and we go through the expectations. So one of the other changes that I think we're trying to do in the industry is we're trying to really come alongside the clients and help them as their HR department. So, a lot of the challenges that you have with virtual assistants is, again, especially if you're not, don't have that dedicated team member, is that they quote unquote go dark and you don't hear from them. Well, we solve that problem. We have multiple channels of communication. We're here to help bridge those gaps. When you have a problem, when a client has a problem with a virtual assistant, we talk it out. Like, is it your problem? Did you not communicate? Or is the VA having a challenge that we need to address? And so we have a very specific, what we call the pathway to success. So when there is a problem, we have a process to follow to get everybody kind of back on the same page, kind of re-energize the relationship and make sure that we help. We also have monthly office hours where we're talking to our clients kind of as an open forum. Typically we have a topic, but it's available to any of our clients for that.
So back to your question, they'll call, have a 20-30 minute conversation appointment with Ann, and they make the decision they want to move forward. They spend about 15 or 20 minutes filling out a simple form to give us some general information. That starts the ball rolling. And then in a matter of a couple of weeks, they're presented with 3 individuals that can do any of the job that they're asking to be done for them to select. They make that selection. The VA then goes through a 40-hour week, 1 week training, and they're delivered to that company to go to work on a Monday following that. So the time period is typically less than 30 days that we're delivering, and the company owner spends 20-30 minutes with on the phone, fills out a form, and then spends about an hour and a half, 2 hours in interviews. And they come out of that just astonished because they're used to putting an ad together, sending out, getting hundreds of resumes back, phone conversations, narrowing it, the process for hiring. It's terrible. So they find this is really exciting, and it's so easy for them. And so we deliver somebody's ready to work 30 days ago.
Yeah, your hiring process is more detailed than multi-million-dollar companies that I've worked with and seen their hiring process. It really is pretty detailed. And at DoorGrow, we have a pretty. I'm a lot like you guys. I really focus on this stuff, and we have a pretty good hiring process. And everything that you and I had talked about, you're doing already in yours, which is, I think, just fascinating to me. I also love that you guys really provide ongoing support. There's always a challenge. Entrepreneurs are terrible managers. Like, we just are. Like, let's be honest. And most of us are not probably the person that should be doing operations or managing the team. And so having somebody that helps us with that, I think, is critical. And the fact that you provide that ongoing support in the relationship between the team member and them helps keep that relationship really healthy and really strong. And most people don't even have that with their US-based employees. So now somebody may have never outsourced, may have never hired somebody in a third world country. This all sounds like maybe completely crazy to them to do something like this. Maybe you could touch on that to just those people that are maybe feel nervous about this. How do they compare to US workers? Like, what are the main differences?
There really isn't a whole lot of them. Again, the only thing is they don't physically come into your office. That's really the main difference. And they can't do stuff that requires physical, planting signs, lock boxes, things like that.
But the English skills, the problem-solving skills, the handling of, there's something they're really good at. I'll point this out. When somebody calls in and they're upset on the phone, we're just like, we want to jump right back at them. They're so calm and mild-mannered. They just listen, and they're so compassionate and empathetic in that. Oh, they've got that mastered, in that their culture is just to take things easy and easy going. So that is a big change over what your local hires would be. But other than that, it's just you can't walk down the hall and tap them on the shoulder. You just have to hit them with IM.
But one of the things I recommend is that you don't treat them much different than a team member, just like you were saying, right? You have your weekly meetings with them. That was something that I think, Alex had actually introduced us to that. Like, it doesn't matter that you've had somebody on board forever. You can onboard them today, right?
Face to face every week.
And having that extra 15, 20 minutes a week really kind of helps you connect with them. So, I mean, of course, every morning, just like you would say good morning, I say good morning to my workers, say, hey, glad to see you. Did you have a good night? Very brief, but, still the same. And then we get to work. They've got questions, they ask me. But that weekly meeting has really saved a lot of time, energy, and effort, because what it does is it makes sure we're all rowing the boat in the same direction. And then, of course, there's company meetings too, and our virtual assistants come to our property management meeting, and we talk about vacancies and marketing reports and all of that. They actually write up the minutes for the meeting, so who's gotten responsible for what tasks. So I don't have to do that, right? I can always just kind of.
We just get the email says, Mark, you made a commitment to do this and this and this and this.
So, again, the more you don't look at it like, oh my gosh, this is the scary place on the other side of the world that we're hiring from. We are the easy button for our clients. Like, I walk you through everything that you absolutely need to know to set you up for success through our process.
And when you embrace this, your life will change dramatically.
So it's super simple. Like, it literally, I think if you talk to any of our clients, they'd be like, this was the best thing I ever did. This was so smart. It saved me a ton of time, energy, effort, money, all of that. And because you're and able to help me through this, when I do have a problem, like I had a meeting with one of my clients yesterday, and I said, let's just talk it through. And he had some things he needed to do. It wasn't clear in his expectations. And I said, you got to get clarity. You can't expect somebody to read your mind of what you're looking for and what you want to do. It's just not, you wouldn't expect that of somebody in your internal team. And it's kind of the same thing.
So they become better business people all around through our experience with them and us being alongside them.
Yeah, so I see a lot of property managers, they get stuck at kind of that 50-door sort of sand trap, and they can't grow because they can't afford to hire somebody. They can't figure out what else they could have somebody do. And I think this would be ideal to help them break past that. And I think also I see a lot of people, if they can break past that, they usually break the 100-door barrier and they move on into that 200 to 400-door category. And that's where I see other people kind of get stuck. And their number one challenge usually is, when I talk with them, it has to do with hiring and staffing, and they're just dealing with this difficulty. And it's usually they put the blame on the team members, but something Alex, you had mentioned, Alex Scharf, my business coach, who he had mentioned to me, is he said this painful sort of thing to me. He said, if you don't have the business that you dream of yet, or the business that you want yet, you're not the person yet that can run it. And that was really, it's powerful feedback, and it's kind of painful to hear. And, there's sort of an ouch factor to that. But there's also this freedom and this clarity in realizing, okay, I can, if I make some changes, if I get some clarity, if I make some improvements here, then everything else can be better. And it's not just about having just the ideal person, which even the best person, players are not going to sit in an environment in which they're always micromanaged. Everything is terrible, and they're treated poorly, and they're not given, recognition in the way that they would like. And so I think, I love that you guys facilitate that process. So let's talk about some of the basic things they're concerned about. English level.
You can go to HireSmartVAs.com/English and listen in. Or if you see us at a trade show, we typically have a VA there you can listen to.
Okay, great. So they're concerned about written and spoken English, and that's a big part of your process of vetting, to find people that can handle that. And in the Filipino culture, it's one of the cultures that's probably the most closely tied to American English.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've hired in India, for example, and they're connected to British English, and it's this weird Indian version of it. And it's really strange. Like, the communication gap, it becomes really, really difficult. Not only that, but they're a little bit more connected to American culture right? And
Well,
culturally, there seems to be
yeah,
more of a
and
trend.
if you've ever called Allstate, Home Depot, most of the big Chase, any of those, and gotten their call center, you've probably talked to somebody in the Philippines, and most Americans can't pick up on that,
Yeah, they don't
and
even
that
know.
they don't know that they're not American, that they're talking to, and because of that alignment, and American companies have such large call centers there. They're the primary employer in the area.
Right. So what other big concerns do people have? I mean, one of the big advantages is that you can get people there. One of the things we didn't bring up that I think is important to point out is that the majority of the people that you're placing have college
Almost all of
degrees,
them.
correct?
We will look at experience for some, but most, if not all, have at least some college. Most have a 4-year degree, and some have even higher education than that. But here's the thing: a nurse who studies, gets paid $1.79 an hour. So,
And they can't find
and they can't
jobs
find
over there.
jobs. So that's why we have a lot of Filipino nurses here in the U.S. because they come here.
But their families expected them to get a 4-year degree. The family is very important there, and their family requires that. They go get it, although there's no jobs. Then they go to work in a call center.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's this huge opportunity that now that it's so possible to run a virtual company, you can have people, as long as they can use a computer, they can use a phone, they can speak, and they're educated and they're smart. There really is no limit unless you need physical laborers in your property management business. This would make a lot of sense, and it would really help collapse costs and allow property managers to be competitive, because staffing is the number
Well,
one
and one of the
cost
things that
in
allowed
a
us to
property
do is
management
be a
company.
differentiator. So we're open 7 days a week. We have phone calls answered live 7 days a week
By our VAs.
by our VAs.
And our property manager's happy because she doesn't have to answer that phone and that email that comes in asking those same repetitive questions all day long. So
or on the weekends, like we used to all have to take weekend phone duty. That was always fun. So we don't so what that means is our internal staff, we can raise them up a little bit. We can pay them a little bit more, bonus them based on what we call revenue generating events. So when we make money, our property manager makes money because that's the way we're structured.
And we attract more owners because we are answering the phone 7 days a week and getting our numbers of vacancies down tremendously, because nobody in my town is showing HUN 7 days a week like we are.
So let's talk about the time zone difference, because that's another concern I think people would be concerned about. So how does that, you have some that work like their own hours, probably daylight hours in the Philippines, and they work the US based hours?
They always work for the time that the client wants. So that's part of the recruiting process, right? So part of the intake form that we get from our clients is, I want somebody to work, whatever. So a lot of times it's the normal business hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5:30.
Pacific, Mountain, whatever the time zone is.
Then I do have some clients that have gotten savvy and they decided they're going to shift their hours a little bit later. So their VA is going to start a little bit later in the day so they can extend their call hours into a couple hours into the evening. And then we have some that like myself, where I have weekend calls. So I have one that works Sunday through Thursday and another one that works Tuesday through Saturday. And, that way I can cover the 7 days a week. So I recruit specifically based on what the client wants. It is 5 consecutive days, 8.5-hour shifts, because there's a half hour for a break. But that's the other thing. Everybody wants to think, well, they need an hour break. It's the middle of the night. They're not going anywhere. 30 minutes to go get a cup of coffee and eat a little something in the middle of the day to kind of get their mind reset is all that they need. Much more than that. And then we risk, going
too
to
many
sleep
distractions
or whatever. So we always say half hour is perfect, and it tends to work really well. And we obviously screen for that. That's part of our hiring process, right? Making sure that they are and have been working graveyard shift for a long period of time so that their bodies have adjusted to that. And again, if you're calling Allstate, Chase, whatever, they would be working in a call center in the middle of the night anyway. So it's really no different. We allow them to work in the comfort of their home office, where their family is. They don't have a 2-hour commute each way, and we pay them extremely well. So there's a lot of advantages of how we're able to get that top 1% talent. But recruiting for the time frame of our clients is a big thing. And most of our clients are going to be in the middle of the night, but not all. I have a couple that start really early in the morning and go into daytime hours, but that's more rare.
Great. And they're taken really well care of. They're paid well. And even though they're paid well, they comparable to a US based employee, the cost of them is so much
Absolutely.
cheaper.
It's less than $20,000 a year all in. So it's that easy. $360 a week. Plus, of course, that we have our recruiting fee on top of that. But it's an incredible cost savings of what you can do for here.
Now, some people might be thinking, I'm going to go try this out on my own. I'm just going to go get
Yep.
somebody. I'm going to try and find Filipinos on my own, and I will go make all the mistakes that companies typically make. And I've done this, so I'll just say this to everybody listening. The challenge is one bad hire, one bad employee may be really cheap. They may be really cheap, but the cost of the damage that they can do and the cost of the business you miss out on and the business you lose from that situation is not, it's more than you would pay for an entire salary of a really well-paid person. And so I don't make that mistake.
The key is you don't know what you don't know. And people do that. They don't know what they don't know to ask about.
It's just like, again, an owner of a rental property.
I'm going
to lease it out and I'm going to manage it myself.
That tenant had cash moving in now.
We all can relate to that, right? Because they're like, well, that's probably not the best idea, but we see it all the time in hiring. Like, you're not a professional hirer. That's not what you do. That's not your role. That's not your job. I've been in HR for 20 years and been having successful placements for over 3.5, and we have a 97% success rate. So numbers speak for itself.
Yeah. And and I love the dynamic between you two because you complement each other so nicely. I've gotten to see your personality and how you guys work together, which has been really fun to work with. But Anne, you are a spitfire. You are driven and you are go, go, go. And you're like, I'm going to do this now. And I want this going. And like, you are so driven. And Mark is such a great compliment. He's like the epitome of the operator. He is meticulous about things. He's so detail oriented. And so you guys work so well together. And so I think they're also getting some of that, which I think is also a benefit to their business.
He's my anchor for sure. He keeps me grounded. And like I said, we're both very passionate about this topic, and we're passionate about helping entrepreneurs, and we're passionate about helping the Filipino culture. I mean, what we've done and what we've created has made me very proud. I'm sure
and we've changed hundreds of people's lives here and in the Philippines. It's wonderful to think about that and think about the impact we've had around the world, literally.
Yeah, and I love it. Good, like I say, I've said before, good property management can change the world, and I love that you guys are in alignment with that sort of bigger picture and bigger vision. So, I appreciate what you guys are doing. I think everybody should get in touch with you. So, how do they get in touch with HireSmart?
The easiest way is to go on our website, which is HireSmartVAs.com. And if you want to book an appointment, you can do /appointment and go ahead and book an appointment with us. We certainly would love the opportunity to serve you. We have a chat on our website as well. So you can always chat. Adele manages that chat. Or you can email me, Anne, ANNE, @HireSmartVAs.com. That's usually the easiest. I work by appointment, so calling is okay, but a lot of times you're going to get the voicemail because I'm working by appointments, helping clients, doing interviews, training VAs.
But you can go right on her calendar and book 30 minutes, just boom.
Boom, right there. And that way I've got that time dedicated for you and can give you my full undivided attention, which I would be honored to do.
Yeah. All right. I'm excited. And I think you guys are up to big things and are going to have a big impact on this industry. And I appreciate you
And
coming on.
speaking of honors, we're honored to be here and involved with you and your organization and changing lives that you are.
That's right. So we're going to have our new website being launched here, probably a broker owner. So we're excited that the DoorGrow.
Who did that website for us?
It would be Jason's
Oh,
team.
wow.
So we're still in the process of finishing it up, but it's going to be available really soon, and it's just going to have more bells and whistles, and we're so excited to work with you guys. Y'all, your team is amazing. And the communication's been really high. And so we appreciate that because we hire specialists, right? I'm not a web developer. I'm not,
we're not a brand specialist.
We don't know anything about that. So you've really transformed our lives. And we do appreciate all that you've done to invest in us as well.
Oh, I appreciate it. Great. It's been great getting to know you guys more and more. So, all right. Well, everybody check out HireSmartVAs.com. And thanks for coming on the show again. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
All right. So hopefully everybody got some really good value out of today's episode. If you did, be sure, if you're listening to this on iTunes, to subscribe and give us your feedback. We'd love to see your reviews on iTunes. That helps us spread the word. And make sure, if you are a DoorGrow hacker, to get inside our DoorGrow Club. It's our free Facebook group. You can get to that by going to doorgrowclub.com. And we have the most amazing resources there. The most amazing people are in there helping each other out. It's just for property management entrepreneurs and business owners. And the level of contribution, the level of value in there is phenomenal. And also, we are ramping up and prepping already for DoorGrow Live 2019. Our live in-person event 2018 was our first inaugural event, and it went amazing. And we are getting ready for 2019. Tickets are on sale already, and it's going to be held at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs in November. And so be sure to get and lock down your tickets for DoorGrow Live. This is where we get all of you DoorGrow hackers together and connecting and making a difference. And so appreciate all of you that are fans of the show, that are listeners. And I hope that you guys have some awesome success in growing your companies. And if you get stuck anywhere, reach out to DoorGrow. We're happy to help. Bye, everyone. And thanks for tuning into today's show.